My name is Aaron Mitchell. What I'm about to tell you happened 3 weeks ago at an RV park near Lake Powell, Utah. I've tried explaining it to the police, to my family, to anyone who'll listen. Most people think I had some kind of breakdown. Maybe they're right. But I know what I experienced, and I need to write it down before the details start slipping away. I went with 3 friends: Mark, Jessica, and Colin. We'd known each other since college, and every summer we tried to take a week-long trip somewhere. This year it was Utah. Colin had rented a 30-foot RV, and we planned to spend 5 days camping near the lake, hiking during the day, drinking at night. Normal vacation stuff. The drive took longer than expected. We left Phoenix early Thursday morning, but between bathroom breaks and a 2-hour delay when the RV overheated outside Flagstaff, we didn't reach the campground until almost 7 p.m. The sun was setting as Colin pulled into Site 14, a flat dirt pad with a picnic table and fire ring, set back about 50 yards from the next closest site. "This is perfect," Jessica said, stepping out and stretching. "God, I need to pee." The campground was maybe a third full. Most sites sat empty, just concrete pads and wooden posts marking their boundaries. I saw a few other RVs scattered around, a couple of tents in the distance. The ranger station sat near the entrance, a small brown building with a closed sign already hanging in the window. We spent the next hour setting up, plugging in the RV, arranging the camping chairs, getting the cooler situated. Mark started a fire while I walked the perimeter of our site. The lake spread out maybe 100 yards away, dark and flat. The air smelled like dust and sage. Colin cooked hamburgers on a portable grill. We ate at the picnic table, watching the last light fade from the sky. Jessica told a story about her nightmare coworker. Mark complained about his knee, which had been bothering him since a basketball injury last month. Normal conversation. Easy. Around 9:30, I went inside the RV to grab another beer. That's when I noticed the clock on the microwave was flashing 12:00. I called out to Colin. "Did you set this?" "Set what?" "The clock, it's blinking." He came inside, looked at it. "Power probably surged when we plugged in. I'll fix it later." I shrugged and grabbed my beer. When I came back outside, Jessica was staring at her phone. "That's weird," she said. "What?" "I'm not getting any signal. I had 2 bars when we got here." Mark checked his phone. "Mine's dead. I charged it in the car, though." "Mine too," Colin said, pulling his from his pocket. The screen was black. He held down the power button. Nothing happened. "Probably the altitude or something," I said, though that didn't make much sense. I checked my own phone. Also dead, even though it had been at 60% an hour ago. Jessica laughed. "Great. We're completely off the grid now." "That's kind of the point," Mark said. "No work emails, no bullshit. Just us and nature." We sat around the fire for another hour, finishing the beers and talking about nothing important. The temperature dropped fast once the sun was gone. By 11, Jessica was yawning. "I'm heading in," she said. "These old bones need rest." Colin followed her inside. Mark and I stayed by the fire for a few more minutes. "You hear that?" Mark asked suddenly. I listened. Just the crackling of the fire, maybe some wind rustling through the brush. "Hear what?" "Thought I heard someone talking, probably from another site." We sat in silence for another minute. I didn't hear anything except the fire. "I'm beat too," I said finally. "Let's call it." We doused the fire and went inside. The RV had 2 small bedrooms in the back. Jessica took one. Colin and Mark shared the other. I got the converted dining area, which folded into a narrow bed. Not comfortable, but I'd slept worse places. I lay there for a while, listening to the sounds of everyone settling in. Jessica's light clicked off. Mark and Colin talked quietly for a few minutes, then went silent. The RV ticked and creaked as it cooled. I must have fallen asleep around midnight. I woke to bright light in my face. For a second, I didn't know where I was. Then I remembered the RV, Lake Powell, camping trip. But something was wrong. Sunlight streamed through the windows. My phone sat on the small shelf next to the bed, and when I grabbed it, the screen lit up immediately. Full battery. The time read 6:47 p.m. That couldn't be right. I'd gone to sleep after midnight. I should have woken up in the morning, not the evening, and my phone had been dead. I heard voices outside. Sitting up, I looked through the window and saw Colin at the grill, Mark starting a fire. Jessica stood by the cooler, pulling out beers. I went to the door and stepped outside. The sun was setting, painting everything in orange light. "Hey, sleepyhead," Jessica said. "Have a good nap. What time is it?" "Almost 7. We just got here like 20 minutes ago." I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" "We just pulled in. Don't you remember? You walked around checking out the site, then disappeared into the RV. I figured you were tired from the drive." Colin turned from the grill holding a spatula. "You feeling okay, man? You look confused." Didn't we already do this? Last night?" They all looked at me like I'd said something in a foreign language. "Last night we were in Phoenix," Mark said slowly. "We drove all day, remember? We literally just got here." I walked over to the fire ring. The ashes from our fire the night before should have been there, but the ring was empty and clean. I checked the picnic table. No crumbs, no beer bottle rings, nothing to indicate we'd eaten here before. "I need a second," I said, and went back inside. The RV looked exactly like it had when we'd first arrived. The beds unmade, our bags still packed by the door. The clock on the microwave blinked 12:00. My phone, which I'd just seen at full battery, now showed 60%. I sat on the converted bed and tried to think. This had to be some kind of joke. But why would they bother? And how would they have cleaned everything, reset everything, just to mess with me? Maybe I'd had some kind of episode, a seizure or something, and I'd dreamed the whole night. That made more sense than what I was thinking, which was impossible. Jessica knocked on the door. "Aaron, you okay?" "Yeah," I called back. "Just feeling weird. Must be the drive." "Come eat. Colin made burgers." I joined them outside. We ate at the picnic table. Jessica told the exact same story about her coworker. Mark complained about his knee. The conversation unfolded word for word the same as the night before. I interrupted her. "Your coworker who schedules meetings at 4:55 p.m., right?" She blinked. "Yeah. How'd you know?" I was just about to say that. Lucky guess. But my hands were shaking. This wasn't possible. I'd heard this exact conversation before. Around 9:30, Colin stood up. "I'm going to grab another beer. Anyone need anything?" "I'll come with you," I said quickly. Inside the RV, I watched him walk to the small fridge. "Check the microwave clock," I said. He glanced at it, blinking. "Power surge probably, I'll fix it later." The exact same words. "Colin, I need to tell you something, and I need you to not think I'm crazy." He looked at me. "Okay. I think we're repeating. I think we already lived through this night, and now we're doing it again." He was quiet for a moment, then laughed. "Did you eat some of Mark's edibles or something?" "I'm serious. Check your phone." He pulled it from his pocket. The screen was black. Dead. That's weird. I charged it in the car. And now Jessica's going to say she doesn't have signal, and Mark's phone will be dead too. And we're going to sit around the fire, and you're all going to go to bed, and I'm going to fall asleep, and then I'm going to wake up, and it'll be 6:47 p.m. again, and we'll be right back here. Colin stared at me. "Aaron, you're freaking me out a little." "I'm freaking myself out, but I'm telling you, we already did this. We already had this exact night." He was quiet, studying my face. Then he shook his head. "Look, you've been stressed at work. Maybe you just need to relax. Get some sleep. You'll feel better in the morning." "There won't be a morning," I said, but he'd already walked back outside. I followed him. Jessica was looking at her phone. "That's weird," she said. "I'm not getting any signal." The night continued exactly as before. Every word, every gesture. I tried to change things. I told different stories, asked different questions. But the conversation always circled back to the same beats, like a train following tracks. Mark mentioned his knee. Jessica yawned around 11 and went to bed. Colin followed. Mark and I stayed by the fire. "You hear that?" he asked. "No," I said. "There's nothing." He looked at me oddly. I was going to say I thought I heard someone talking. I felt cold despite the fire. "From another site, right?" "Yeah. How'd you—" "I'm going to bed," I said, standing up. I lay on the converted bed and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I'd fallen asleep in the car and was having some kind of fever dream. Or maybe I'd had an accident and was in a coma, and this was my brain trying to make sense of random neural firing. But it felt real. The lumpy mattress under my back felt real. The sound of Mark and Colin talking quietly in the other room felt real. I closed my eyes and tried not to think about what would happen when I woke up. Bright light in my face. My phone read 6:47 p.m., full battery. I lay there for a long moment, just breathing. Then I got up and went outside. Colin stood at the grill. Mark was starting a fire. Jessica pulled beers from the cooler. "Hey, sleepyhead," she said. "Have a good nap?" This time I didn't bother trying to explain. I just nodded and sat at the picnic table. The conversation played out the same. Dinner, fire, bedtime. I went through the motions like an actor in a play, saying my lines, hitting my marks. Except this time something was different. Around 10 p.m. after Colin and Jessica had gone inside, Mark and I sat by the fire. He started to speak. "You hear that?" But then he stopped. We both heard it this time. A voice. Distant but clear. It sounded like someone calling out, though I couldn't make out the words. "There," Mark said, pointing toward the darkness beyond our sight. "You hear it?" "Yeah." We sat in silence, listening. The voice came again, closer now. It sounded like a woman calling for someone. A name, maybe, though the words were indistinct. "Should we check it out?" Mark asked. "No," I said quickly. Something about that voice made my skin crawl. "It's probably just another camper. Sounded like she needs help. Then she'll go to the ranger station." Mark looked at me strangely, but he didn't push it. We sat there for another few minutes, but the voice didn't come again. Inside the RV, I lay awake for hours. I kept expecting the voice to come closer, to hear someone knocking on the door, but nothing happened. Eventually, I must have dozed off. 6:47 p.m. Full battery. Colin at the grill. 4 loops now. Or maybe I was up to 5 or 6. I was starting to lose track. The day played out the same. Dinner, fire, conversation. I barely participated anymore, just sat there like a zombie while everyone else talked and laughed. But the voice came earlier this time. Around 9 p.m., while we were still eating, I heard it. A woman calling out, the sound drifting across the empty campsites. "Do you guys hear that?" Jessica asked, setting down her burger. They all stopped talking. The voice came again, clearer now. It almost sounded like she was saying a name. "Aaron?" I felt my blood go cold. "Did she just say Aaron?" Colin asked. "Probably saying Aaron or Sharon or something," Mark said. "Sound carries weird out here." But I knew what I'd heard. The voice was calling my name. Jessica stood up. "We should check on her. She sounds lost." "Don't," I said. They all looked at me. "Why not?" Jessica asked. "Because—" I stopped. How could I explain? "Because we're stuck in a loop, and every time we reset, something new appears, and now there's a voice calling my name, and I don't think it's human." "Because it's getting dark," I said finally. "If someone's really in trouble, they should go to the ranger station." "The ranger station is closed," Colin pointed out. The voice came again. Definitely my name this time. "Aaron? Aaron, where are you?" "That's creepy as hell," Mark said. "Who the fuck is that?" Jessica grabbed a flashlight from inside the RV. "I'm going to see if they need help." "Jess, don't—" But she was already walking toward the sound, flashlight beam swinging through the darkness. We all stood there watching her go. She made it maybe 30 yards before she stopped. "There's no one here," she called back. "Come back," I said. "I heard her. She was right around." The voice came again, but this time it was behind us. I spun around. A figure stood at the edge of our campsite. For a second I thought it was Jessica, but she was still out there with the flashlight. This was someone else, a woman in a pale dress, her face hidden in shadow. "Aaron?" the woman said. Her voice was exactly like the one we'd heard, but flatter, more monotone. "Who are you?" Mark asked. She didn't answer. She just stood there, perfectly still. Jessica came running back. "What the hell?" she said, breathing hard. "Who's that?" "I don't know," Colin said. The woman started walking toward us, slowly, deliberately. As she got closer, I could see her face. It was wrong. I can't explain exactly what was wrong about it. The features were all there, eyes, nose, mouth, but they were slightly off, like someone had drawn a face from memory and gotten the proportions wrong. Her smile was too wide. Her eyes didn't blink. "You should leave," I said. My voice came out shaky. She stopped about 10 feet away. "Aaron," she said again, "I've been looking for you. Who are you? Don't you recognize me?" I didn't. I'd never seen her before in my life. "I think you should go," Colin said, stepping forward. "You're on our site." The woman's head tilted to one side, too far, like her neck had extra joints. "I'm not leaving without Aaron," she said. Then she lunged. It wasn't a normal movement. She went from standing still to suddenly right in front of me, covering 10 feet in an instant. Her hands reached for my face, fingers splayed wide. I fell backward over my chair. Mark grabbed her arm, trying to pull her away, and she turned on him with that impossible speed. Her hand caught him across the face and he went down hard. Colin tackled her. They hit the ground together, rolling in the dirt. Jessica screamed, dropping the flashlight. I scrambled to my feet. The woman thrashed underneath Colin, her movements wrong, too jerky and fast. She was saying my name over and over. "Aaron, Aaron, Aaron, Aaron." Colin was yelling for help. I grabbed his shoulders, trying to pull him off her, but she was incredibly strong. Her hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Her skin was cold. Not cool, but actually cold, like touching meat from a freezer. "Aaron," she said, looking right at me. "Wake up." Then everything went black. 6:47 p.m. I gasped, sitting up. My heart hammered. I could still feel where she'd grabbed me, my wrist burning with phantom cold. Outside, Colin stood at the grill. Mark started a fire. Jessica pulled beers from the cooler. I put my head in my hands and tried not to scream. The loops continued. I stopped counting after 10. Maybe it was 15. Maybe 20. Each time I woke at 6:47 p.m. Each time. The night played out the same up to a certain point, and each time something new appeared. The woman in the pale dress came every loop now, but earlier and earlier. By what I guessed was loop 12, she showed up during dinner. By loop 15, she was there when I first walked outside. She never stopped trying to grab me, and every time she got close, everything reset. But she wasn't the only thing that appeared. On loop 18, I found something under my bed in the RV. A photograph, old and faded. It showed this campsite, this exact spot, but from years ago. A family stood in front of an old camper, a man, a woman, and a young boy. The woman in the photo looked like the woman in the pale dress. I showed it to the others, but they just looked confused. "Where'd this come from?" Colin asked. It was under the bed. Weird. Probably left by the people who rented before us. On loop 21, Mark went missing. It happened during dinner. He excused himself to use the bathroom in the RV and just never came back out. We waited 5 minutes, then 10. Finally, Colin went to check on him. "He's not in there," Colin said, coming back outside. We searched the RV top to bottom. No Mark. Then we searched the surrounding area, calling his name. Nothing. Around midnight, he came walking back into the campsite. Where the hell have you been? Jessica demanded. Mark looked at her with that same too wide smile. Just taking a walk. For 6 hours? Has it been that long? He sat down at the picnic table. Time got away from me. Something was wrong with his eyes. They didn't move right, didn't focus on anything specific. Are you okay? I asked. I'm perfect, he said. Never better. He sat there smiling at us until we went to bed. When I glanced out the window, he was still sitting there, perfectly still, staring at nothing. The reset came at 6:47 p.m., and Mark was normal again, but I knew it would happen again. And it did, on every subsequent loop. He'd disappear, come back wrong. And each time he seemed a little less like Mark. On loop 27, Jessica disappeared too. They came back together around 1 a.m., both of them smiling, both of them wrong. We went for a walk, Jessica said. Together? Colin asked. Yes, it was nice. You should come next time. They sat at the picnic table, side by side, smiling at us, not blinking, not moving except to breathe. Colin looked at me. I could see the fear in his eyes. He felt it too. Something was very wrong. I'm going to bed, he said quietly. Inside the RV, he grabbed my arm. What the fuck is happening? He whispered. I don't know. They're not. That's not them, right? You see it too? I see it. What do we do? I don't know, I said again. Just stay away from them. Don't let them grab you. We locked the RV doors, which felt ridiculous but also necessary. Through the window, I could see Mark and Jessica still sitting at the table, perfectly motionless in the darkness. Around 2 a.m., they started knocking on the door. Gentle at first. Tap, tap, tap. Aaron? Colin? Let us in. It's cold out here. The knocking got louder, more insistent. Come on, guys, this isn't funny. I peeked through the curtain. They stood right outside the door, both of them still smiling. The knocking turned to pounding. Open the door. Their voices had changed, deeper, echoing, like multiple voices speaking in unison. Colin backed away from the door. Jesus Christ. The pounding continued for hours, steady, relentless. Then around 4 a.m. it just stopped. I looked out the window. They were gone. Did they leave? Colin whispered. I didn't answer. I was staring at something else. The woman in the pale dress stood at the edge of our campsite, and she wasn't alone anymore. There were others now. Maybe a dozen figures, all standing perfectly still in the darkness. Men, women, even what looked like children, all wearing pale clothes, all with those wrong smiles. They stood there watching the RV until the reset came. 6:47 p.m. Colin stood at the grill. Mark started a fire. Jessica pulled beers from the cooler. I didn't get up. I just lay there on the converted bed, staring at the ceiling. How many loops had it been? 30? 40? I'd stopped counting, stopped trying to keep track. Time had become meaningless. The door opened. Colin poked his head in. Hey, you coming out? Burgers are ready. In a minute. He looked concerned. You sure you're okay? You've been in here for like an hour. An hour. Right. From his perspective, I'd been napping. He didn't remember any of the loops. None of them did. It was just me, living the same night over and over, watching things get worse each time. I forced myself to get up and go outside. They were all there, sitting around the fire, laughing and talking. Happy. Unaware that in a few hours, some of them would disappear and come back wrong. Unaware that figures would appear in the darkness and surround our campsite. Unaware that we were trapped in a nightmare that kept repeating. Aaron? Jessica said, smiling at me. You look terrible. Are you feeling all right? Fine. I lied. Dinner happened. The conversations. I'd heard it all so many times I could recite every word. Around 9 p.m., the woman's voice started calling my name. Right on schedule. But this time I stood up. Where are you going? Mark asked, to find out who that is. Aaron, don't... Colin started, but I was already walking toward the darkness. I had to know. I had to understand what was happening, why we were stuck in this loop, what these things wanted. Maybe if I could figure it out, I could break the cycle. The voice led me away from the campsite, past empty RV pads and dark tents. I walked for what felt like 10 minutes following the sound. Aaron, over here. I found myself at the edge of the campground, where a dirt trail led down toward the lake. The voice was coming from below. I started down the trail. The further I went, the darker it got. The campground lights faded behind me. Soon I was walking in near total darkness, my hands outstretched to feel my way forward. The voice stopped. I stood there in the silence, my heart pounding. "Hello?" I called out. Something moved in the darkness ahead of me. I heard footsteps, slow and deliberate. Then I saw her, the woman in the pale dress. She stood maybe 10 feet away, barely visible in the gloom. "Aaron," she said, "you finally came. Who are you? What do you want?" She tilted her head in that too far way. "Don't you remember me? I've never seen you before. Look closer." I took a step toward her, squinting. Her face was still wrong, still off, but there was something familiar about it now. The shape of her eyes, maybe. The curve of her jaw. Then I saw it. The photo I'd found under the bed. The family standing in front of the camper. The woman in that photo. "You were here before," I said slowly. "Years ago. Something happened to you." She smiled. "Yes. What happened? We didn't leave." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "We tried. We packed everything up, we drove away. But we always came back. The lake wouldn't let us go." "What does that mean?" "It means you're one of us now, Aaron. You and your friends. You'll stay here forever just like we did, living the same night over and over until you become part of the loop yourself." "No," I said. "No, that's not. It already happened. You're already here. This is just the process. Soon you won't remember anything else. Soon this will be all there is." "I'm leaving," I said. "When morning comes, we're leaving." She laughed. It sounded like wind chimes. "Morning never comes, Aaron, that's the point." I turned and ran back up the trail. Branches scratched my arms and face. I stumbled over rocks, barely keeping my balance. Behind me, I heard her laughing. When I got back to the campsite, Colin was putting out the fire. "Where'd you go?" he asked. "The lake I found." I stopped. How could I explain? "We need to leave. Right now." "What?" "It's almost midnight." "I don't care. We need to get in the RV and drive away from here." Mark and Jessica came outside. "What's going on?" Jessica asked. "We're leaving," I said. "Now, get your stuff." They all looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. "Aaron, we're not packing up and leaving in the middle of the night," Colin said calmly. "If you want to go in the morning—" "There isn't going to be a morning," I shouted. "Don't you get it? We're stuck here. We've been living the same night over and over. I'm the only one who remembers, but it's happening. And if we don't leave right now—" "Okay," Colin said in that tone people use with crazy people. "Okay, let's just calm down." "I'm not fucking calm. Movement caught my eye. The figures were back, standing at the edge of our campsite. More of them now, maybe 20 or 30, all perfectly still, all smiling. "Look," I said, pointing. "Look at them. You see them, right? Tell me you see them." Colin, Mark, and Jessica turned to look. They were quiet for a long moment. "There's nothing there, Aaron," Jessica said gently. "What? They're right there. The woman in the pale dress and all the others there." But when I looked back, the figures were gone. The edge of our campsite was empty. "Aaron," Mark said, "I think you need to lie down. You're not feeling well." "I'm fine. I'm the only one who's seeing this clearly. We're in a time loop. Every night we go to sleep and wake up at 6:47 p.m. and do this all over again. It's been happening dozens of times, and every time more of these things appear, and some of you disappear and come back wrong and—" "Okay," Colin said firmly. That's enough. Inside. Now. They practically dragged me into the RV. Colin made me lie down on the converted bed. Jessica brought me water. You're exhausted, she said. Just get some sleep. You'll feel better in the morning. There is no morning, I whispered, but I was too tired to fight anymore. They left me alone. I heard them outside, talking quietly, probably discussing how worried they were whether they should drive me to a hospital in the morning. Morning, as if there would be one. I closed my eyes. 6:47 p.m., but this time when I opened my eyes, I wasn't alone in the RV. Mark stood at the foot of the bed staring down at me. He wasn't smiling. His face was blank, expressionless. Mark? I said, sitting up. He didn't respond, just kept staring. Mark, you're scaring me. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a knife, one of the camping knives from our gear bag. Mark, what are you? He lunged. I rolled off the bed, hitting the floor hard. The knife stabbed into the mattress where my head had been. Help! I screamed. Mark pulled the knife free and came at me again. I scrambled backward, knocking into the small kitchenette. He moved with that same wrong, jerky speed as the woman in the pale dress. The RV door burst open. Colin and Jessica ran inside. What the hell? Colin started, then saw Mark with the knife. Mark turned toward them. He still wasn't smiling, wasn't showing any emotion at all. He just advanced, knife raised. Colin grabbed him, trying to wrestle the weapon away. They crashed into the table. Jessica ran past them, heading for her phone. It's dead, she shouted. My phone's dead. Mark threw Colin off him with impossible strength. Colin hit the wall and slumped down, dazed. Jessica grabbed a frying pan from the stove and swung it at Mark's head. It connected with a sickening thud. He staggered but didn't go down. He turned to face her, and for the first time he smiled, that terrible, too-wide smile. Mark, please, Jessica said, backing away. It's us. It's Jess and Aaron and Colin. You know us. I know you, Mark said. His voice was wrong, echoing. I know what you'll become. He stepped toward her. I grabbed a bottle from the counter, wine, I think, and smashed it over his head. Glass shattered. Wine splattered everywhere. Mark dropped to his knees. Out, I yelled. Everyone out! We ran for the door. Colin recovered enough to stumble after us. Outside, we ran for the parking area where we'd first entered the campground. We need to get help, Jessica panted. The ranger station, it's closed, I said. It's always closed, don't you see? This keeps happening. We can't get help because there is no help. We're trapped. Behind us, Mark emerged from the RV. He walked slowly, deliberately, the knife hanging from his hand. Blood dripped from his head where the bottle had hit him, but he didn't seem to notice. Run, Colin said. We ran into the darkness between campsites. I had no idea where we were going. Away from Mark, away from the RV, away from everything. We made it maybe 100 yards before Jessica fell. She'd tripped over something in the dark, twisted her ankle. Go, she said through clenched teeth. I'll catch up. We're not leaving you, I said. Colin and I hauled her up, one arm over each of our shoulders. We continued stumbling through the darkness. A voice called out behind us. Aaron, Colin, Jessica. Not Mark's voice, the woman's voice. I looked back. The figures had appeared, all of them, spread out in a line, walking slowly toward us. Mark was with them now, knife still in hand. This way, Colin said, pulling us toward a grove of trees. We crashed through brush and low branches. Jessica was crying, trying to keep weight off her injured ankle. I kept looking back, seeing the figures following, always maintaining the same distance. There, Jessica said, pointing. That building. A small structure stood among the trees. It looked like a maintenance shed or something made of corrugated metal. The door hung open. We practically fell inside. Colin slammed the door shut behind us. There was no lock, so he grabbed a piece of old rebar from the floor and wedged it through the handle. It was pitch black inside. I felt around and found a flashlight on a shelf, clicked it on. The shed was maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, filled with old equipment. Shovels, hoses, bags of something. It smelled like rust and dirt. "What the fuck is happening?" Jessica whispered. "What's wrong with Mark?" "I told you," I said. "We're in a loop. This has all happened before. Mark disappears, comes back wrong. Sometimes it's just him, sometimes it's all of you. And those things outside—" "The people in pale clothes," Colin said quietly. "I saw them this time. You were right. You see them now?" He nodded. "After Mark attacked, something shifted. It's like I can feel it now. The wrongness. We've been here before, haven't we? Living this same night." "Over and over," I said. "I don't know how many times." Jessica was shaking. "So what do we do? How do we get out?" "I don't know. I've tried everything. I've tried changing what we do, tried leaving early, tried confronting whatever's causing this. Nothing works. We always reset at 6:47. Then we wait," Colin said. "We stay in here until what? Until we wake up again?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know if we would wake up again. Maybe this was the end of the loop. Maybe this was where it all ended. Something scraped against the door. We all froze. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Like fingernails on metal. "Aaron?" the woman's voice called softly. "Are you in there?" We didn't respond. Didn't move. Barely breathed. "You can't stay in there forever." More scraping. Then silence. We waited in that silence for what felt like hours. Jessica leaned against the wall, holding her ankle. Colin sat on the floor, head in his hands. I stood by the door, listening. Around what I guessed was 2 a.m., I heard something else. Footsteps. Multiple sets, walking around the shed in a circle. Then they stopped. "They're waiting for us," Jessica whispered. "Then we don't go out," Colin said. "But we had to go out eventually. We had no food, no water. And if the loop reset, we'd wake up at our campsite anyway. Unless we didn't." The thought occurred to me suddenly. What if we broke the pattern so completely that the loop couldn't reset? What if staying in here, refusing to participate, was the answer? "We stay," I said. "No matter what happens, we stay in here." "For how long?" Jessica asked. "As long as it takes." The footsteps started again. Circling, circling. Never stopping. Then the door started to shake. Something was pulling on it, testing the rebar. "It won't hold," Colin said. He was right. The rebar was already starting to bend. "Find something to defend ourselves with," I said, grabbing a shovel from the pile of equipment. Colin found a crowbar. Jessica stayed on the floor, unable to stand. The door burst open. They flooded in. The woman, Mark, and all the others. Too many to count in the confined space. Their faces were all wrong, all smiling, all reaching for us. I swung the shovel. It connected with something solid, but more hands grabbed me. Cold hands, freezer cold. Colin shouted, swinging the crowbar. Jessica screamed. The woman's face appeared right in front of mine. Her smile was so wide it looked like it might split her face in half. "Aaron," she said, "welcome home." Then, 6:47 p.m. I opened my eyes. I was lying on the converted bed in the RV, staring at the ceiling. But something was different. I could hear voices outside, Colin, Mark, Jessica. The same conversation I'd heard dozens of times. But underneath it, I heard something else. Laughter, echoing. Multiple voices layered over each other. I sat up slowly. My hands looked strange, too pale. When I flexed my fingers, they moved wrong, with that same jerky quality I'd seen in the others. No. I stood and walked to the door, pushed it open. Colin stood at the grill. Mark started a fire. Jessica pulled beers from the cooler. They all turned to look at me. And I saw it in their eyes, that same wrongness, that same too-wide smile. "Hey, sleepyhead," Jessica said. "Have a good nap?" I tried to speak, but my voice came out flat, monotone. "Yes." Colin laughed, but it sounded like wind chimes. Come eat. We just got here. I walked over to the picnic table and sat down. Everything looked the same as always, but now I could see what I hadn't been able to see before. The campground wasn't empty. There were others like us in every site. Families, couples, groups of friends, all frozen at different points of their own loops, all smiling. The woman in the pale dress stood at the edge of our campsite. She wasn't scary anymore. She was just there, like she'd always been there. "Aaron," she said, "you understand now." I did understand. We were all part of it now. Part of the loop, part of the lake, part of whatever this place had become. We'd keep living this same night forever, and eventually we wouldn't remember anything else. We'd forget that we'd ever been anywhere else. Forget that there was a world outside this campground. Forget what it felt like to be human. The sun was setting. Mark asked if I wanted a beer. I said yes. We sat around the fire and talked and laughed, and everything was normal. Everything was fine. Around 9:30, I heard a voice calling from the darkness. "Aaron? Aaron, where are you?" I stood up. "I'll be right back," I told the others. "Where are you going?" Jessica asked, but she was smiling. She knew. I walked toward the darkness, following the voice. A new RV had pulled into a site across the way. 4 people were setting up camp. One of them, a woman about my age, was walking through the darkness with a flashlight, looking confused. "Hello?" she called out. "Is someone there?" I heard someone calling my name. I stepped into her flashlight beam. She gasped. "Oh, you scared me. Hi, sorry. I thought I heard..." "Did you call my name?" I smiled. That too wide smile. "Yes," I said. "I've been looking for you." Her face changed as she looked at me. Fear crept into her eyes. "What's your name?" I asked, though I already knew. I could feel it somehow, like I'd always known. "Rachel," she whispered. "Welcome to Lake Powell, Rachel," I said. "You're going to love it here." Behind her, I could see her friends setting up their camp, laughing, talking, unaware. 6:47 p.m. The loop was starting again, but this time, I wasn't the one trapped in it. I was part of the trap. My name is Olivia Grant. This happened last September in Fish Lake National Forest, Utah. I'm writing this down because I need people to know what happened, even though I'm not sure anyone will believe me. Even I'm not sure what I believe anymore. Maya and I had been planning the trip for months. We'd rented an RV, a 28-foot Class C that cost more than I wanted to spend. But Maya insisted we needed something comfortable for 2 weeks off-grid. She'd been stressed about her dissertation defense, and I'd just wrapped up a brutal project at work. We both needed to disconnect. The drive from Denver took longer than expected. We left on a Friday morning and didn't reach the forest until late afternoon. The GPS lost signal about 40 miles before our destination, but we had paper maps. Maya studied cartography as an undergrad, so she wasn't worried. She traced the route with her finger while I drove. "Take the next left," she said. "Should be about 6 miles to the campground." The road narrowed as we went deeper into the forest. Pines crowded both sides, their branches scraping the RV's roof. I hadn't seen another vehicle in over an hour. "You sure this is right?" I asked. "According to the map." She tapped the paper. "There's a clearing marked here. Private RV sites. The review said it was isolated." "It's definitely that." The clearing appeared suddenly, a break in the trees wide enough for maybe 3 RVs. Only one other was there. A vintage Airstream that looked like it hadn't moved in years. No one was outside. No smoke from a campfire. No camping chairs or gear visible. "Guess we have neighbors," Maya said. We parked at the far end, as far from the Airstream as possible. I killed the engine, and we sat there for a moment, listening to the silence. It was complete. No birds, no wind, nothing. "It's quiet," I said. "That's the point." Maya unbuckled her seatbelt. "Let's get set up before dark." We spent the next hour getting situated. Maya set up the awning while I dealt with the hookups: water, power, waste. The electrical post looked old, the outlets corroded. I had to wiggle the plug to get it to connect, and even then the lights inside the RV flickered. "Power's sketchy," I called out. "We have the generator if we need it," Maya replied. By the time we finished, the sun was setting. The temperature dropped fast. Maya started a fire in the metal ring while I made sandwiches inside. When I came out with our dinner, she was staring at the Airstream. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I haven't seen anyone over there. No lights, no movement. Maybe they're out hiking. There are cars there." She nodded toward a rust-covered pickup truck parked beside the trailer, "And it's getting dark." We ate in silence, watching the Airstream. No lights came on. No one emerged. The fire crackled and shadows danced across the clearing, but the other campsite remained dark and still. "This is weird, right?" Maya asked. "Maybe they're asleep, or not even here. Could be abandoned." "The truck has current plates." I hadn't noticed that. Maya noticed everything. It was one of the things I loved about her, but sometimes it made her anxious about details that didn't matter. "Let's just enjoy our first night," I said. "We didn't come here to worry about strangers." She nodded, but kept glancing at the Airstream. We turned in around 10. The RV's bed wasn't as comfortable as advertised. Thin mattress, and I could feel the springs. Maya fell asleep quickly. She always did. I lay awake, listening to the silence outside. I kept waiting for sounds. Animals, wind, something. But there was nothing. I must have dozed off eventually because I woke to movement. Maya was sitting up in bed, her eyes open, staring at the wall. "Maya?" She didn't respond. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood up. I realized what was happening. Maya had sleepwalked since childhood. She'd told me about it early in our relationship, said it happened when she was stressed. I'd never actually seen it happen before. "Maya, you're sleepwalking." She walked toward the door. I got up quickly, blocking her path. "Hey, let's get you back to bed." Her eyes looked through me, not at me, through me. I touched her shoulder and she stopped. I guided her back to bed and she lay down without resistance. Within seconds, she was asleep again. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I kept watching her, making sure she didn't get up again. In the morning, Maya didn't remember any of it. "I sleepwalked?" She looked concerned. "I haven't done that in over a year." "It's fine. I got you back to bed." "I'm sorry. Did I try to go outside?" "You were heading for the door." She rubbed her face. "The stress from work probably triggered it. I'll be more careful tonight." "How do you be careful about something you do while asleep?" "I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have caffeine late in the day." We made breakfast and tried to shake off the odd start to our trip. The sun was out. The forest looked less ominous in daylight, and the Airstream across the clearing still showed no signs of life. "Should we check on them?" Maya asked as we cleaned up. "Check on who?" "Whoever's in the Airstream, or was in it." "I don't know. It's bothering me." "If you want." We walked across the clearing together. Up close, the Airstream looked even more neglected. The aluminum shell was dented and stained. The windows had condensation on the inside. Maya knocked on the door. No response. She knocked again, harder. "Hello? Anyone home?" Silence. "Maybe we should just leave it," I said. Maya tried the handle. It was locked. She cupped her hands around her eyes and peered through a window. "What do you see?" I asked. "Nothing. It's too foggy." She stepped back. "Okay, let's go." "You're right, not our business." We spent the day hiking. Maya had mapped out a trail that supposedly led to a scenic overlook. The map showed it was a 5-mile loop, easy terrain. We packed water and snacks and set out around noon. The trail was overgrown in places. We had to push through branches and step over fallen logs. After an hour, we should have reached a fork in the path, but there was no fork, just more trees. "Did we miss it?" I asked. Maya checked the map, then checked her compass. She frowned. "What?" "According to this, we should have hit the fork 10 minutes ago." But the compass says we're still heading north, which is right. Maybe the map's wrong. It's a topographical map from the Forest Service. They don't just make mistakes. We kept walking. Another 30 minutes passed. The trees looked the same. The path looked the same. I started to feel like we were walking in circles. Maya, let's turn back. We should reach the overlook soon. I don't think there is an overlook. She stopped and looked at me. What do you mean? I mean, maybe it doesn't exist. Maybe the map's outdated, or we took a wrong turn. She checked the compass again. Her frown deepened. That's not possible. What's not possible? We've been walking north for 2 hours, but according to the compass, she tapped it. Now it says we're facing south. I looked at the compass. The needle was pointing behind us in the direction we'd come from. It's broken, I said. It was working fine this morning. We stood there in the middle of the forest, both of us trying to figure out what was wrong. The trees pressed in on all sides. The silence was back, heavier than before. Let's just go back the way we came, I said. We turned around and started walking. The trail should have been familiar. We'd just hiked it. But it looked different. The fallen logs weren't where I remembered them. The branches seemed to hang at different angles. After an hour, we still hadn't reached the clearing. This doesn't make sense, Maya said. She was trying to stay calm, but I could hear the edge in her voice. We should have been back by now. Maybe we're going slower because we're tired. No, something's wrong. We kept walking until the sun started to set. The forest grew darker and I began to panic. We were lost. Completely, utterly lost. Maya, we need to stop and think. I am thinking. I don't understand how this happened. Do you have your phone? She pulled it out. No signal, obviously, but we didn't need a signal. We needed the GPS. She opened the map app. It loaded slowly, using cached data. Okay, she said, staring at the screen. Okay, we're not that far from the clearing. It's just, we've been walking parallel to it. That doesn't make sense. We were following the trail. I know, but look. We're only about half a mile west of where we started. It took us 20 minutes to reach the clearing, bushwhacking through underbrush because there was no trail in that direction. When we finally emerged, the RV was right there, exactly where we'd left it. The airstream sat in darkness across the clearing. We didn't talk much that night. Maya made pasta while I sat outside staring at the trees. I kept thinking about the trail, the way it had seemed to loop without looping, the compass that changed direction. None of it made sense. After dinner, Maya took something from her bag, a small pill bottle. "What's that?" I asked. "Sleep medication. My doctor prescribed it for the sleepwalking. I didn't think I'd need it, but after last night, will it help?" "It's supposed to keep me in deeper sleep, less likely to walk." She took one pill and climbed into bed. I stayed up reading, waiting to make sure the medication worked. Around midnight, I turned off the light and got into bed beside her. She was already asleep, breathing steadily. I closed my eyes. I woke to cold air on my face. The RV door was open. I sat up quickly, my heart hammering. Maya wasn't in bed. The clock on the wall said 3:17 a.m. "Maya?" No response. I grabbed my flashlight and phone and jumped out of bed. My bare feet hit the cold floor and I realized I should put on shoes, but there wasn't time. I ran to the door and looked outside. Maya was standing in the middle of the clearing, about 30 feet from the RV. She wore her pajamas, thin cotton that wasn't nearly warm enough. Her feet were bare. She was facing the airstream. Maya, she didn't turn around. She started walking toward the airstream. I ran after her, the ground cold and rough under my feet. When I reached her, I grabbed her arm. "Maya, stop! You're sleepwalking again." She stopped but didn't look at me. Her eyes were open, fixed on the airstream. I tried to turn her around to guide her back to the RV, but she resisted. She pulled her arm free and kept walking. "Maya, please." She reached the airstream and put her hand on the door. I expected it to be locked like earlier, but the handle turned. The door swung open. Maya, no. We don't know who's in there. She stepped inside. I had no choice. I followed her. The interior of the Airstream was dark and smelled wrong. Not rotten exactly, but stale and chemical. My flashlight beam swept across the space. Cramped, outdated furniture, a small kitchenette, a bed in the back. No one was there. Maya walked to the bed and stopped. She stood there staring at it. Maya, we need to leave. She didn't move. I touched her shoulder and she collapsed. Not dramatically, she just sort of folded, her knees buckling. I caught her before she hit the floor. Maya? Maya. Her eyes were still open but unfocused. She was breathing, but her body was limp. I shook her gently, then harder. Maya, wake up. She blinked, once, twice. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, and her face contorted in confusion. Olivia? What? Where are we? You were sleepwalking. We're in the Airstream. She looked around, panic spreading across her face. Why would I don't know. You just walked here. The door was open. She scrambled to her feet, nearly falling again. I steadied her. We both looked around the Airstream, our flashlight beams crossing. The bed had rumpled sheets. The kitchenette had dirty dishes in the sink. Someone had been here recently. We need to go, Maya whispered. We stumbled out of the Airstream and back across the clearing. Maya leaned on me the whole way, her legs shaking. When we got back to the RV, I locked the door behind us. Maya sat on the bed, her head in her hands. I don't understand. The medication was supposed to stop this. Maybe it takes a few days to work. No, I've taken it before. It works right away. She looked up at me, her eyes red. Something's wrong with me. Nothing's wrong with you, you're just stressed. I walked into a stranger's trailer, Olivia, while asleep. What if someone had been in there? What if... But they weren't. It's okay. She didn't look convinced. Neither was I. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. We sat together on the bed, lights on, watching the door. At some point, Maya started crying quietly. I held her and didn't say anything because there was nothing to say. When the sun came up, we decided to leave. Let's just pack up and go, Maya said. This was a mistake. The place is wrong. I'm wrong here. You're not wrong. But yeah, we can go. We packed quickly, throwing things into bags without organizing them. Maya went outside to disconnect the hookups while I secured everything inside the RV. I was closing the overhead cabinets when I heard her shout. Olivia, come here. I ran outside. Maya was standing by the water hookup, staring at something on the ground. What is it? She pointed. There were footprints in the dirt, small, bare footprints. They led from the Airstream to our RV and back again. Back and forth. Over and over. Dozens of trips, maybe more. Those are my footprints, Maya said quietly. From last night. No, you only walked there once. Look at them. I looked. She was right. The prints were hers. I recognized the shape of her feet, the slight turn of her left ankle from an old injury. But there were too many. Way too many for one trip. I don't remember, Maya said. I don't remember walking back and forth. You didn't. You walked there once and I brought you back. Then why are there so many footprints? I didn't have an answer. We hooked up the RV and tried to leave. I turned the key in the ignition. Nothing. I tried again. The engine clicked but didn't turn over. Fuck, I muttered. I tried a third time, fourth time, fifth time. The battery was dead. Completely dead. But that didn't make sense. We'd been plugged into power all night. Check the hookups, Maya said. I got out and looked. The power cable was still connected to the post, but when I tested the outlet with my phone charger, nothing happened. No power. The post must have blown, I said, or it was never working. It was working. The lights were on. Then why is the battery dead? We stood there in the morning sun, both of us trying not to panic. We were stuck. No power, no way to charge the battery, no cell signal to call for help. We'll have to hike out, I said. Find a ranger station or another campground with people. Okay. We grabbed our backpacks, filled them with water and food and the essentials. Maya took her medication bottle. I took both our phones, even though they were useless. We locked the RV and started walking. The trail that had been so confusing yesterday was easy to find this morning, clear and well marked. We followed it for what should have been an hour but felt like 3. The sun moved strangely in the sky, jumping from position to position. One moment it was mid-morning, the next it was afternoon. Did you feel that? Maya asked. Feel what? Time, it just skipped. I knew what she meant. I'd felt it too, like blinking and missing an hour. We kept walking. The trail led us deeper into the forest instead of out of it. I checked my phone's GPS. According to the map, we were moving in circles again, spiraling around the clearing without ever leaving it. This can't be right, I said. Maya took out her compass. The needle spun wildly, unable to settle on a direction. We're going back, she said. Back where? To the RV. Something doesn't want us to leave. That's not... Olivia. She grabbed my arm. I've been having dreams, every night since we got here. Dreams of walking through the forest. Dreams of something calling me. And when I wake up, I can't remember them, but I know they happened. That's just your subconscious dealing with stress. No, it's more than that. Something here is calling me. And last night, I answered. We stood on the trail, surrounded by trees that all looked the same, under a sun that moved too fast or too slow. Part of me wanted to keep walking, to find a way out through sheer determination. But another part of me knew Maya was right. We weren't leaving. Not yet. We turned around and walked back to the clearing. It took 15 minutes. The trail led us straight there, as if it had been waiting for us to give up. The RV looked undisturbed. The Airstream sat in its spot across the clearing, but something was different. The door was open. Did we leave that open? I asked. No. I remember watching you close it. We approached slowly. As we got closer, I saw something on the ground near the Airstream. More footprints, fresh ones, leading away from the trailer into the forest. Maya, are those... They're mine, she whispered. From this morning. But I didn't. We've been together all morning. The footprints were bare feet, same as last night. They led into the trees on the opposite side of the clearing from where we'd gone. Maya started following them. Wait, what are you doing? I need to know. Know what? Where I went. I followed her because I couldn't let her go alone. The footprints were easy to track, pressed deep into the soft earth, deliberate and evenly spaced. They led us about a quarter mile into the forest before stopping at a small depression in the ground. It wasn't natural. Someone had dug it. Recently, the earth was freshly turned, dark and moist. Maya knelt beside it. This is where the footprints end. Don't touch it. She reached out anyway, brushing away some of the loose dirt. Something white appeared beneath. Bone white. Maya, stop. She kept digging, using her hands to scrape away the earth. More white appeared, taking shape. A hand. A human hand. I grabbed her shoulders and pulled her back. Stop. We need to call someone. There's no signal. You know that. Then we need to... Olivia. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I dug this. I buried someone. You didn't. You were with me. I was sleepwalking. I've been sleepwalking every night. Making trips to the Airstream and back. I was doing something, and this is what I did. I didn't want to believe her, but the footprints didn't lie. And something about the way she said it, the certainty, the horror, made me think she was right. We backed away from the grave and returned to the clearing. Neither of us spoke. What was there to say? That Maya had been digging up a body while asleep? That something in this forest was making her do things she couldn't remember? When we got back, someone was waiting by our RV. A woman, middle-aged, thin, wearing clothes that looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. She smiled when she saw us. You found it, she said. Found what? I asked. The hole. The grave. She kept smiling. I was wondering when one of you would find it. Maya stepped forward. Who are you? I live here, in the Airstream. She gestured across the clearing. I've been here for a long time, waiting. Waiting for what? The woman's smile widened. For someone like you. Someone who hears the calling. I don't know what you're talking about, Maya said, but her voice shook. Yes, you do. You hear it at night. It whispers your name. It tells you to walk, to dig, to prepare. Prepare for what? The woman didn't answer. She just turned and walked back to the Airstream. Before she disappeared inside, she looked back at us. It happens tonight, she said. The crossing. When the sleepwalker brings the offering. Then she was gone. Maya and I stood there, both of us frozen. The sun was setting. When had that happened? We'd lost hours again. The day had slipped away. We're leaving, I said. Right now. We'll walk through the night if we have to. We can't leave. Yes, we can, we'll... Olivia. Maya turned to me, and her eyes were different. Distant. I can hear it now. Even while I'm awake, it's calling me. No. It wants me to prepare the crossing. It wants me to bring the offering. Maya, stop, you're scaring me. She smiled. Not her smile. A wrong smile. I'm scaring myself. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat in a chair facing the bed, watching Maya. She'd taken 2 of her sleeping pills, double the dose, hoping to knock herself out completely. It worked. She fell into a deep, motionless sleep, but I could see her eyes moving beneath her eyelids. Rapid, frantic movements. She was dreaming, and whatever she was dreaming wasn't good. At 3:17 a.m., the exact same time as the night before, her eyes opened. She sat up slowly, mechanically. Her eyes were open but empty. She looked at me without seeing me. Maya, stay in bed. She stood up. I stood too, blocking the door. You're not going outside. She walked toward me anyway. When I grabbed her arms, her skin was cold, too cold. She looked at me, and for just a second, something flickered in her eyes. Recognition. Fear. Olivia, she whispered, her voice her own again. Run. Then it was gone. Her eyes went empty again. She pushed past me with impossible strength, threw open the door, and walked out into the night. I ran after her, but she was already halfway across the clearing. She was heading for the Airstream again, but this time, the woman was waiting outside, standing in the doorway, smiling. Maya reached her, and the woman took her hand. They stood there together, both of them staring at me. The crossing, the woman said. She'll bring the offering. She'll complete the circle. Let her go, I shouted. She doesn't want to go. This is what she came here for. What you both came here for. Maya started walking again, but not toward the Airstream, toward the trees, toward the grave. The woman followed. I ran after them, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly. They moved fast, too fast, and the forest seemed to help them, pulling branches aside, smoothing the path. I had to fight through underbrush while they glided ahead. When I reached the grave, they were standing beside it. Maya knelt and started digging with her bare hands. The woman watched, that horrible smile never fading. Stop, I said, my voice breaking. Please, just stop. The woman turned to me. She's not digging up, she's digging down, making room. Room for what? For herself. Maya kept digging faster and faster, throwing dirt behind her. The hole grew deeper. I could see bones in the walls of earth, ribs, a skull, the articulated curve of a spine. Old bones. Very old. Maya, please. She didn't respond. She was elbow deep in the earth now, her arms covered in dirt and something darker. The woman stepped closer to me. You can't stop it. The forest chose her the moment you arrived. It's been waiting. It needs a sleepwalker to complete the crossing. Someone who can walk between worlds. What worlds? Sleep and wake, life and death, here and there. She gestured around us. This place is thin, the barrier is weak, the sleepwalker can bridge it. I don't care about your barrier, I just want Maya back. She's already gone. What returns won't be her. Not completely. Maya stopped digging. She was in the hole now, up to her waist. She looked up at me, and her face was wrong. The features were hers, but the expression was alien. Something looked out through her eyes that wasn't Maya. Olivia, it said with Maya's voice. I'm sorry. Then she pulled herself deeper into the grave. The earth began to collapse around her, burying her alive. I screamed and lunged forward, but the woman grabbed me. She was stronger than she looked. She held me back while Maya disappeared into the ground. The earth settled. The grave was smooth now, unmarked, like no one had ever been there. I broke free from the woman and fell to my knees, clawing at the dirt. Maya, Maya, the woman knelt beside me. She's not there. Not anymore. The crossing is complete. Where is she? Everywhere. Nowhere. Walking. I kept digging until my fingers bled. The woman watched me, patient, sad. When I finally exhausted myself, she helped me to my feet. Come, she said. You should rest. I'm not going anywhere with you. Where else will you go? The forest won't let you leave. Not now. Not after witnessing the crossing. She was right. I knew it in my bones. I'd seen too much. The forest had marked me. She led me back to the airstream. Inside, it looked different than it had before. Cleaner. Less abandoned. She made tea while I sat at the small table. Numb. How long have you been here? I asked. Time moves differently in this place. Years maybe, or days. I don't remember anymore. Why did you stay? I brought someone here once. Someone I loved. They walked, just like your Maya. They completed the crossing, and I couldn't leave them, so I stayed. I waited, hoping they'd come back. Did they? She shook her head. Not the way I wanted, but I see them sometimes. Walking through the trees at night, their face, their body, but something else inside. I started crying. She put a hand on my shoulder. You'll see her too, she said. She'll come back to you. Eventually. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm still here, in the clearing, in the airstream. The woman left a few days ago. Said her time was done, that the forest had released her. I don't know if I believe that or if she just walked into the trees and disappeared like Maya did. The RV battery recharged on its own the morning after Maya vanished. The power came back. I could leave any time I want. But I don't leave. Because every night at 3:17 a.m. I hear footsteps outside, bare feet on the dirt, making that slow circuit from the trees to the airstream door and back again. I've looked outside a few times. It's Maya. Her body, her face, her clothes. But she doesn't respond when I call her name. She just walks her circuit and returns to the forest. She's still sleepwalking, still answering the call, still completing the crossing over and over in an endless loop between worlds. The woman said she'd come back eventually. Come back to herself. But I'm starting to understand that's not what happens. Maya isn't coming back. What walks outside my door every night is something else. Something that wears her like a suit. Something that bridges the gap between sleep and wake. Life and death. Sometimes I think about leaving. Getting in the RV and driving until I hit a town with people and cell service and normalcy. But then I remember what the woman said, the forest won't let me leave. And even if it did, how could I? How could I leave Maya out there walking alone through the dark? So I stay. I wait. I watch her footprints multiply in the dirt, tracking back and forth, back and forth. And I listen to the whispers that have started to come at night. They know my name now. They're calling me too. Last night, I woke up standing outside. I don't remember getting up. Don't remember unlocking the door, but there I was in the middle of the clearing, facing the trees, facing the grave. My feet were bare and cold. I walked back to the airstream and locked the door. I took 2 of Maya's sleeping pills, the bottle she left behind, but I don't think they'll work. I can feel it already, the pull of the forest. The calling. I'm starting to understand that Maya and I came here for a reason. The forest chose us both. It just took Maya first, because she was already a sleepwalker. She was already practiced at walking between worlds. But it wants me too. It needs another. Someone to keep walking the circuits. Someone to maintain the crossing. Tonight I'll probably walk. Tomorrow maybe I won't remember. Eventually I'll be like Maya, just a body moving through the dark, answering a call I can't refuse. The woman was wrong about one thing though. Maya does come back, not to herself, but to me. Every night at 3:17 a.m. she walks past the Airstream, and every night she pauses at the door. Just for a second she stands there and I can see her through the window. She smiles, that wrong smile, and then she keeps walking. I smile back now, I can't help it. The smile comes on its own. I think it's starting. I think I'm crossing over. And I'm not afraid anymore. Maybe that's what the calling does. It takes away the fear. It takes away everything except the need to walk, to dig, to prepare. The forest is thin here. The barrier is weak. And something on the other side has been waiting a very long time for sleepwalkers like us. People who can bridge the gap. People who can bring the offering. I don't know what the offering is. Not yet. But I think I'll find out tonight when I walk. When I answer the call. When I complete my own crossing. Maya will be waiting for me in the trees. She'll take my hand. And we'll walk together. We'll dig together. We'll prepare together. And then maybe finally we'll see what's on the other side. What's been calling us all along. What wants to cross over into our world, using our bodies as bridges. It's almost 3:17 a.m. now. I can feel the calling starting. My eyes are getting heavy, my feet are getting cold. I should lock the door. I should tie myself to the bed. I should do something to stop this, but I don't want to stop it anymore. I want to walk. I want to join Maya in the trees. I want to cross over and see what's waiting there. So I'll write this down and leave it in the Airstream. Maybe someone will find it. Maybe someone will understand. Maybe someone will know not to come to this clearing in Fish Lake National Forest, where the barrier is thin and the sleepwalkers walk. Or maybe someone will come anyway. Someone will find this note and laugh at it and think it's just a story. They'll set up their RV and sleep soundly and wake up to find everything normal. Until 3:17 a.m., until the calling starts. Until they wake up standing in the clearing with bare, cold feet and a smile they don't remember making. The forest is always waiting. Always hungry. Always looking for the next sleepwalker to complete the crossing. My name is Olivia Grant. If you're reading this, leave. Leave now. Don't wait. Don't stay. Don't let the calling start. Because once it starts, you won't want to stop. You'll just want to walk. And walk. And walk. Forever. The clock just turned to 3:17 a.m. Maya is standing outside the door. She's smiling at me. Waiting. I'm smiling back. I can't help it. It's time to walk. It's time to cross over. It's time to... My name is Emma Davis. This happened last September at Panguitch Lake in Utah, and I still can't explain what we saw or why Claire wouldn't stop digging. We'd planned the trip for months. 3 of us, me, Claire, and Mike, renting an RV for a long weekend. Claire had just quit her job at the law firm. Mike was between contracts, and I'd taken time off from teaching. We needed to get away, and Panguitch Lake seemed perfect, remote enough to feel like an escape, but not so isolated that we'd lose cell service completely. The drive from Salt Lake took about 3 hours. Mike drove while Claire and I sat in the back of the RV playing cards and catching up. Claire seemed good, better than she'd been in months. The job had been eating her alive, and seeing her laugh again felt like watching someone come back to life. I should have quit years ago, she said, dealing another hand. I forgot what it feels like to sleep past 6. You're going to get bored, Mike called from the front. Give it 2 weeks. I'll find something else, Claire said. Something that doesn't make me want to drive off a bridge. She said it casually, but Mike and I exchanged a look. Claire had been dark lately. Not suicidal, just worn down in a way that worried us. The campground was half empty when we arrived. September in Utah meant cooler weather, fewer tourists. Our spot was near the back, close to the trees. The lake stretched out to our right, flat and gray under overcast skies. 3 other RVs were scattered around the grounds, but they were far enough away that we barely saw them. We spent the first afternoon setting up. Mike handled the hookups while Claire and I arranged the interior. It was a nice RV, bigger than I'd expected. 2 beds in the back, a small kitchen, a bathroom with an actual shower. Claire kept making jokes about how this was nicer than her apartment. "I could live in this thing," she said, flopping onto one of the beds. "Just drive around forever." "You'd be bankrupt in a month," Mike said. "Gas alone would kill you." That first night was perfect. We made dinner on the little stove, drank wine, played more cards. Around 10, we bundled up and sat outside around a small fire. The temperature had dropped, but it felt good, clean and sharp. Claire was quiet during dinner, but not in a bad way. She kept staring at the trees, her wine glass forgotten in her hand. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "Just thinking." "About?" "I don't know. Everything. Nothing." She turned to me. "You ever feel like you're supposed to be doing something but you don't know what it is?" "Every day," I said. "No, I mean..." She trailed off, frowning. "Never mind." Mike came back from the RV with more wood for the fire. "It's getting cold. We should head in soon." But Claire stood up instead. "I'm going to walk for a bit." "Now?" Mike checked his phone. "It's almost midnight. Just around the campground, I'll stay in sight." She walked off before either of us could argue. Mike and I watched her disappear toward the trees, her flashlight bobbing in the dark. "She's been weird all day," Mike said. "She's processing," I said. "Give her time." Claire came back 20 minutes later. She didn't say where she'd been, and we didn't ask. We all went to bed around 12:30. I woke up once during the night around 3. The RV was quiet except for Mike snoring from the front bed. Claire's bed was empty. I got up and found her sitting at the small table, staring out the window. "Can't sleep?" I whispered. She didn't turn around. "Do you hear that?" I listened. Nothing but wind and the occasional creak of tree branches. "Hear what?" "Never mind." I sat with her for a few minutes, but she didn't say anything else. Eventually, I went back to bed. When I woke up the next morning, she was asleep in her bed, fully clothed. The digging started on the second day. We'd gone for a hike around the lake that morning. It was beautiful in a stark way. Red rocks, pine trees, the water so still it looked like glass. Claire seemed better, more like herself. She joked with Mike about his terrible sense of direction and took dozens of photos on her phone. But when we got back to the campground around 2, she grabbed a small shovel from the RV's utility compartment and walked toward the tree line. "What are you doing?" Mike asked. "I want to dig a fire pit," Claire said. "A proper one." "We have a fire ring," I said, pointing to the metal ring 20 feet from our RV. "I want a better one." It seemed harmless. Weird, maybe, but not alarming. Mike and I watched her walk into the trees and disappear from view. We assumed she'd be back in 10 minutes. She didn't come back. After an hour, Mike went to check on her. He came back looking confused. "She's just digging," he said. "Still, she's dug this hole, maybe 3 feet wide and 2 feet deep." I asked her what she was doing, and she said she needed to make it bigger. "Bigger for what?" Mike shrugged. She wouldn't say. She told me to leave her alone. We left her alone. Around 5, I walked over to check on her. The hole was bigger now, maybe 4 feet across and 3 feet deep. Claire was inside it, up to her knees, shoveling dirt onto a growing pile beside her. Her face was red and sweaty, her hands covered in blisters. "Claire, what are you doing?" She looked up at me, and for a second I didn't recognize her expression. It wasn't anger or frustration, it was focus, pure, unblinking focus. "I need to finish this," she said. "Finish what?" "This." "It's just a hole, Claire. Come back to the RV. We're making dinner." I'm not hungry. I tried to convince her to stop, but she ignored me. After 10 minutes, I gave up and went back. Mike was sitting outside drinking a beer and watching the hole from a distance. She say anything? He asked. No. Should we be worried? I didn't know how to answer that. People did weird things on vacation. Maybe Claire was working something out, burning off stress in a physical way. It seemed harmless. Odd, but harmless. Except she didn't stop. By sunset, the hole was 6 feet across and nearly 4 feet deep. Claire was still inside it, digging with mechanical precision. She'd stopped responding to us entirely. When Mike walked over and tried to pull her out, she shoved him away. Not violently, but firmly. I need to finish, she said again. Finish what? Mike's voice was sharper now. Claire didn't answer. She just kept digging. We made dinner without her. Around 9, I brought her a sandwich and a bottle of water. The hole was even bigger now, maybe 7 feet across. Claire was filthy, her clothes caked in dirt, her hair matted with sweat. She took the water but didn't touch the sandwich. You need to eat, I said. Later. Claire, this isn't normal. You've been digging for 7 hours. She stopped and looked at me. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face gaunt. I'm almost done. Done with what? I don't know yet. That scared me more than anything. Not anger, not defensiveness. Just calm certainty that she needed to keep digging, even though she didn't know why. I went back to the RV. Mike was pacing. We should call someone, he said. Who? The park rangers. What are we going to say? Our friend is digging a hole? She's not okay, Emma. I know. We stayed up, watching her from the window. Around midnight, Claire finally stopped. She climbed out of the hole, stumbled back to the RV, and collapsed onto her bed without a word. She was asleep in seconds. Mike and I looked at each other. Maybe it's out of her system, Mike said. I wanted to believe that. The next morning, Claire was gone. I woke up at 7 and found her bed empty. The shovel was missing from the utility compartment. I walked to the tree line and found her already in the hole digging. The hole was at least 8 feet across now, maybe 5 feet deep. Claire had been working for hours. She didn't acknowledge me when I approached. Claire, you need to stop. She didn't respond. Claire! Nothing. I tried to climb down into the hole, but she turned on me with the shovel raised. Not to hit me, but as a warning. Her eyes were wild, unfocused. Stay out, she said. I backed away. Mike came over an hour later. By then, the hole was even deeper. We could only see the top of Claire's head as she dug, her movements methodical and relentless. This is insane, Mike said. We need to physically stop her. She'll hurt herself. Or us. She's already hurting herself. Look at her hands. We could see them when she lifted the shovel. Raw, bleeding, blistered. But she didn't seem to feel any pain. She just kept digging. Around noon, one of the other campers walked over. An older man, maybe 60, with a gray beard and a concerned expression. Everything okay here? He asked. Our friend is digging, Mike said. The man peered into the hole. How long has she been at it? Since yesterday. The man's expression changed. Yesterday? Yeah. He was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at us. You might want to leave. What? Pack up and leave. Today. Why? The man glanced at the hole again, then back at us. This lake has a history. Bad things happen here sometimes. People get fixated. Fixated on what? Different things. A few years back, a guy camped here and spent 3 days stacking rocks. Didn't eat, didn't sleep, just stacked rocks into these towers. When the rangers finally got him to stop, he couldn't explain why he'd done it. Said he just knew he had to. Mike and I stared at him. Look, the man continued. I'm not saying your friend is crazy. I'm saying this place does something to people. Some people. Not everyone, but some. And when it gets its hooks in, you don't want to stick around. What happens? I asked. The man shook his head. Nothing good. Just leave. He walked away before we could ask anything else. Mike and I stood there watching Claire dig. The pile of dirt beside the hole was enormous now, almost as tall as the RV. "Do you believe him?" Mike asked. "I don't know. Because if we're talking about packing up and dragging Claire out of here, we need to decide fast." I looked at the hole. Claire was maybe 6 feet down now, completely invisible except for the rhythmic sound of the shovel hitting dirt. "Let's try talking to her again," I said. We climbed down into the hole. It was cramped and dark, the walls pressing in. Claire was at the bottom, digging with furious intensity. Her hands were destroyed, raw meat barely holding the shovel. "Claire," I said gently, "we need to leave. We're worried about you." She didn't look up. "Claire, please, just stop for a minute and talk to us." She kept digging. Mike tried next. "Claire, if you don't stop, we're going to call for help. Medical help." That got her attention. She looked up, and I wished she hadn't. Her face was hollow, skeletal. She'd lost weight in 2 days, impossibly fast. Her skin was gray, her lips cracked. "If you call anyone," she said quietly, "I'll never forgive you." "Claire, I'm fine. I just need to finish." "Finish what?" Mike's voice was desperate now. Claire smiled, and it was the worst thing I'd ever seen. "I'll know when I get there." We climbed out of the hole. Mike was shaking. "We need to call someone," he said. "She'll hate us. She's going to die if we don't." He was right. I knew he was right. But every time I thought about calling for help, something stopped me. Not fear of Claire's anger, but something else. A nagging feeling that if we interrupted her, something bad would happen. Something worse than this. That night, we heard her digging in the dark. The sound was rhythmic, mechanical. Scrape, lift, toss, scrape, lift, toss. Over and over without pause. Mike and I sat in the RV, not speaking, just listening. Around 3 a.m, the digging stopped. We both sat up, alert. Silence pressed in from all sides. Then Claire screamed. It wasn't a scream of pain or fear. It was a scream of triumph, raw and primal. Mike and I bolted out of the RV and ran to the hole. Claire was climbing out. She was covered head to toe in dirt, barely recognizable. Her hands were ruined, her fingernails torn off, but she was smiling. "I found it," she said. "Found what?" I asked. She turned and pointed into the hole. "Look." Mike grabbed a flashlight and shined it down. The hole was at least 10 feet deep now, maybe more. At the bottom was something smooth and white. "What is that?" Mike asked. "I don't know," Claire said, "but I need to dig it out." "No," I said firmly. "No more digging. You're coming inside, you're eating, and you're sleeping. Whatever that is, it can wait." Claire looked at me, and for the first time in 2 days, she seemed lucid. "Emma, I have to." "Why?" "Because it wants me to." The words hung in the air between us. "What wants you to?" Mike asked. Claire shook her head. "I don't know. But I heard it. I've been hearing it since we got here. It's been calling me, telling me to dig. And now I've found it, and I need to see what it is." "That's not real," I said, but my voice was weak. "Then why have I been digging for 2 days?" She had a point. Mike and I helped her inside. She was too weak to stand on her own. We cleaned her hands as best we could. They were a mess of blood and dirt and exposed tissue, and made her eat something. She managed half a sandwich before falling asleep. Mike and I sat at the table, not speaking. "We're leaving in the morning," Mike said finally. "What about the hole? What about it? Don't you want to know what she found?" Mike looked at me like I was crazy. "No, absolutely not. Whatever is down there, it made her do this, and I don't want any part of it." He was right, I knew he was right. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I waited until Mike was asleep, then I took the flashlight and went outside. The hole looked like a grave. The walls were smooth, almost deliberate, like they'd been carved instead of dug. I leaned over the edge and shined the light down. The white object was still there, partially uncovered. It was round, maybe 3 feet in diameter, smooth like bone. I should have walked away. Instead, I climbed down. The walls were slick with moisture and the air smelled like earth and something else, something sweet and rotting. I reached the bottom and crouched beside the white object. It was bone. Definitely bone, but too big to be human. I brushed away some of the dirt and saw markings, symbols carved into the surface. They didn't look old. They looked fresh. Something moved in the dirt beside me. I jumped back, heart hammering. Another piece of bone, smaller than the first, pushed its way up through the earth like a plant sprouting. Then another. And another. They were arranging themselves. I scrambled up the hole, dirt falling in clumps around me. By the time I reached the top, I was gasping for air. Mike was standing there, flashlight in hand. "What the hell were you doing?" he asked. "There's something down there," I said. "I know, that's why we're leaving." "No, Mike, there's something." A sound came from the hole, a low, grinding noise, like stones scraping together. We both backed away. Claire appeared beside us. She'd woken up and her expression was calm. Too calm. "It's finished," she said. "What's finished?" I asked. "The grave." "Claire, that doesn't make sense. You dug the hole. How can it be a grave?" Claire smiled. "Because I'm supposed to fill it." She walked to the edge of the hole and looked down. Mike and I grabbed her, pulling her back. "You're not going down there," Mike said. "I have to." "No, you don't." Claire wrenched free and turned to face us. "You don't understand. I've been hearing it for 2 days. It's been calling me, and now I know why. There's something down there that's been waiting for someone to dig it up, and it chose me." "Chose you for what?" I asked. She looked at me with eyes that weren't quite hers anymore. "To let it out." Then she jumped. Mike and I lunged for her, but we were too slow. Claire dropped into the hole and hit the bottom with a sickening thud. We both leaned over, shining our lights down. She was lying on top of the white bones, her body bent at an odd angle. For a second, I thought she was dead. Then she sat up. Her head turned toward us, and even from 10 feet away, I could see that her eyes had changed. They were white. Completely white, with no pupils. "Claire?" Mike's voice was barely a whisper. She didn't respond. She just started digging again, but this time with her bare hands tearing at the dirt around the bones. "We have to get her out," I said. "How?" "I don't know, but we can't leave her down there." Mike and I climbed down, carefully clinging to the walls. The grinding noise was louder now, resonating through the earth. When we reached the bottom, Claire didn't acknowledge us. She just kept digging, her ruined hands pulling up clumps of dirt. The bones were almost completely uncovered now. They formed a shape, something large and vaguely humanoid, but wrong. Too many joints, too many limbs. "Claire, we're getting you out of here," Mike said, reaching for her. She turned on him, and her mouth opened wider than it should have. A sound came out, not words, but something guttural and ancient. Mike stumbled back, and I grabbed his arm. "We need to go," I said. "We can't leave her." "Mike, that's not Claire anymore." As if to prove my point, Claire turned back to the bones and pressed her hands against them. The grinding noise became a roar, and the bones began to move. They weren't assembling themselves. They were pulling themselves together, fusing like they'd never been broken in the first place. Mike and I scrambled up the hole, dirt falling around us. By the time we reached the top, the roar had become a scream. Claire's voice mixed with something else, something that didn't belong to any living thing. We ran to the RV, locked the doors, and called 911. The Rangers arrived 2 hours later, just after dawn. By then, everything had gone quiet. They found the hole and they found the bones. But they didn't find Claire. The bones had been shattered, scattered across the bottom of the hole like something had exploded from within. There were pieces of clothing, Claire's clothing, but no body. The Rangers questioned us for hours. We told them everything, but I could see the skepticism in their eyes. A woman digging a hole for 2 days straight, bones that moved on their own. None of it made sense. They searched the area for 3 days but found nothing. Claire had vanished. Mike and I left Panguitch Lake on the 4th day. Neither of us has talked about what happened. Not to each other, not to anyone else. But sometimes, late at night, I hear it. That grinding noise. The sound of bones scraping together. And I wonder if Claire is still digging somewhere. Still uncovering things that should have stayed buried. Or worse, I wonder if whatever was in that hole is looking for someone else now. Someone to dig it up again. Someone like me. Because ever since we left, I've had this feeling. This itch in the back of my mind, like I've forgotten something important. Something I was supposed to do. And yesterday, I found myself in my backyard with a shovel in my hand. I don't remember going outside. I don't remember getting the shovel. But there it was, and I was digging. Just a small hole at first, maybe a foot across. I told myself I was planting something, preparing the garden for spring. But it's December now and I'm still digging. The hole is 3 feet across, 4 feet deep, and I can't seem to stop. My name is Daniel King. I'm writing this down because I need someone to understand what happened at Fish Lake National Forest last October. I need someone to believe me, even though I'm not sure I believe it myself anymore. Maya and I had been planning the trip for months. We'd rented a 32-foot RV from a place in Salt Lake City, one of those newer models with the slide-outs and a full kitchen. Neither of us had ever driven something that big before, and Maya kept making jokes about us jackknifing into a ditch somewhere on the mountain roads. She was always like that, turning her nerves into humor. We'd been together 2 years, met at a coffee shop where she worked while finishing her master's in environmental science. I was a freelance photographer, mostly corporate work, occasionally landscapes when I could afford to take the time. This trip was supposed to be about disconnecting. No cell service, no emails, just us and the aspen groves turning gold before winter. The drive from Salt Lake took about 3 hours. We stopped in Richfield for groceries, enough food for 5 days. Plus extra water because Maya had read something about the campground wells being unreliable. The woman at the checkout counter asked where we were headed. When Maya told her Fish Lake, she got this look on her face. Not unfriendly exactly, just careful. "You two be safe up there," she said. "Season's changing. Gets dark early now." Maya thanked her and we left. In the parking lot, she laughed about it. "What do you think she meant by that? Bear attacks? Serial killers?" "Probably just being nice," I said, though something about the woman's tone stuck with me. The campground was more isolated than the photos suggested. We'd booked online, Site 14, which was supposed to have full hookups and a fire ring. The access road turned from pavement to gravel about 6 miles before the entrance, and the trees pressed close on both sides. The aspens were beautiful, but there was something oppressive about how they blocked out the sky. We were the only ones there. The ranger station at the entrance was empty, just a bulletin board with faded notices about fire safety and bear protocols. There was a payment envelope system. You were supposed to fill out your information and drop cash or a check in a locked box. Very honor system. Very 1985. "Creepy," Maya said. But she was smiling. She liked this kind of thing, the isolation, the self-reliance. I'd always been more of a Hampton Inn person, but I was trying. Site 14 was at the back of the campground, surrounded by aspens on 3 sides and facing a small clearing. The fire ring was there, along with a weathered picnic table. The hookups worked: water, electricity, even a sewer connection. I got us leveled and connected while Maya explored the area. She came back 15 minutes later saying she'd found a trail that supposedly led to Fish Lake itself, about 2 miles through the trees. "We should hike it tomorrow morning," she said, "early before it gets too warm." That first night was fine. We made dinner in the RV, pasta with marinara, garlic bread, a bottle of red wine. Maya put on music from her phone since we'd downloaded playlists before losing service. We played cards at the dinette table and she kept winning, which always made her cocky in this endearing way. Around 11 we heard something outside. Not close, but not far either. A sound like someone dragging something heavy through leaves. Maya went to the window. Probably a deer. Deer don't drag things. Maybe it's limping or carrying a branch in its mouth. I didn't argue, but I got up and locked the door. We'd left it unlocked until then. We went to bed in the RV's rear bedroom. The mattress was decent enough, though the sheets smelled like rental, that specific combination of industrial detergent and plastic packaging. Maya fell asleep within minutes. She always did. I lay awake longer, listening to the sounds outside. Wind in the aspens, the occasional creak of trees. Nothing unusual, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was listening back. I must have fallen asleep eventually, because the next thing I remember is opening my eyes to darkness. Except it wasn't darkness. The window beside the bed showed early morning light, that blue-gray quality just before sunrise. I should have been looking at the ceiling, but instead I was facing the wrong direction. The bedroom felt different. Wrong. I tried to sit up and couldn't. My body didn't respond the way it should. My arms felt heavier, longer. When I looked down at my hands, they weren't my hands. They were Maya's. I could see her rings on the fingers. The silver one her sister gave her. The jade band she'd bought in Seattle. Her nail polish chipped on the thumb. Her hands. I want to be clear about this. I wasn't looking at Maya's hands across the bed. I was looking at them where my hands should be. At the ends of arms that were too thin, too smooth. I touched my face, her face, and felt features that weren't mine. Smaller nose, different jaw, hair longer, softer. The panic was immediate and complete. I tried to scream and heard Maya's voice come out, tried to move and felt her body respond, unfamiliar and wrong in every dimension. I looked to my right. There, in the bed beside me, was my body, lying on its side, breathing slowly, peacefully asleep. I need to stop here and say that I'm not schizophrenic. I've never had hallucinations, never done heavy drugs. The strongest thing I'd had the night before was 2 glasses of wine. This wasn't a dream. I've had vivid dreams before, and they feel different, looser, less anchored. This felt real with an intensity that dreams never achieve. I sat there in Maya's body for what might have been 5 minutes or 30. Time felt elastic. Eventually, the body that was mine stirred and opened its eyes. They focused on me, and for a moment there was confusion there. Then recognition, then something else. Daniel. The voice was mine, but the inflection was wrong. The way the question lifted at the end, the slight hesitation, it was Maya's speech pattern coming from my throat. "What's happening?" I said, and heard her voice shake. "What the fuck is happening?" The person in my body sat up slowly, looking down at hands that should have been mine, touched a face that should have been mine. The expression that crossed those features was hard to read. Shock. Maybe, but also something calculating. "I don't know," she said, using my voice. "I woke up and... this is wrong. This is so wrong." We sat there staring at each other. I could see myself from the outside now. Needed a shave, hair messy from sleep, the small scar above my left eyebrow from a bike accident in college. Everything exactly as it should be, except someone else was wearing it. "We need to figure this out," Maya said through my voice. She was already trying to sound calm, rational. That was like her. She was better in crises than I was. "This has to be, I don't know, some kind of shared delusion, carbon monoxide?" "I feel fine," I said. "I mean, I feel like me, just not in the right body." He, I didn't know the pronouns anymore, got out of bed and went to the bathroom. I heard the door close, then the sound of water running. When she came back, there was something off in the way she moved. Too careful, like she was learning how my body worked. "The mirror shows what we're seeing," she said. "I look like you. You look like me. This isn't possible. I know it's not possible, but it's happening." We spent the next hour trying to make sense of it. Checked the RV for gas leaks. Nothing. Tried to remember if we'd eaten anything unusual. Nothing beyond what we'd brought from Richfield. Maya, in my body, suggested we drive back to town, find a hospital. get checked for neurological issues or toxins. Both of us having the exact same hallucination? I said. That doesn't make medical sense either. Nothing about this makes sense. We didn't leave, though. Part of it was the surreal paralysis of the situation. Part of it was that Maya insisted we should wait, see if it resolved on its own. Give it a few hours, she said. Maybe we're still asleep somehow. Maybe we'll wake up normal. But I think part of it was something else. Something I didn't want to admit yet. When I looked at her, at my body with her inside it, I could see something in the eyes that wasn't quite right. A hesitation, like she was performing being upset rather than actually feeling it. We made breakfast. Everything felt wrong. Using hands that weren't mine, seeing from a different height, even my voice in my own ears was someone else's. Maya moved around the RV kitchen with my body, cracking eggs and toasting bread, and I noticed she was comfortable. Too comfortable, like she'd already adjusted. Does it feel weird to you? I asked. Being in my body? She paused, spatula in hand. Of course it feels weird. This is insane. But you're managing it. You're moving around like you've been in there for years, not hours. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I can barely coordinate these hands, but you're fine. She turned back to the stove. Maybe I'm just better at adapting. We ate in silence. The food tasted different, or maybe Maya's taste buds were different from mine. I couldn't tell anymore where perception ended and reality began. After breakfast, Maya suggested we still do the hike. We came here to be outside. Maybe moving around will help. Clear our heads. I didn't want to hike. I wanted to curl up and wait for this to end. But she insisted, and I didn't have the energy to argue. So we put on shoes, which felt bizarre. My feet were smaller now, and I had to wear Maya's hiking boots, and headed out toward the trail she'd found the day before. The forest was beautiful in an oppressive way. The aspens created corridors of gold and white, their leaves rustling in the morning breeze. But there was something watchful about it. The spaces between the trees felt occupied by something more than shadow. We walked for maybe 20 minutes before I realized the trail markers were wrong. Maya had described the path as well-maintained, with regular signs indicating distance to the lake. But the markers we were passing were hand-carved, crude things nailed to trees, and they weren't pointing toward the lake. They just had numbers on them. 7, 12, 4. Did you see these yesterday? I asked. Maya, in my body, several feet ahead, glanced back. See what? The numbers, on the trees. She looked at the marker nearest to us, the one with 4 carved into it. That's probably just, I don't know, trail maintenance codes or something. They're not maintenance codes. Look at them. They're hand-carved. She shrugged and kept walking. The casualness bothered me. Yesterday, Maya would have been fascinated by something like this. She would have taken photos, made theories. Now she seemed eager to dismiss it and move on. The trail curved deeper into the woods. The aspens gave way to denser pine, and the light changed. Less gold, more gray. I started to feel like we were going the wrong direction, that the trail was leading us somewhere other than the lake. But when I mentioned it, Maya said we should keep going. We've come this far. I think we should go back, just a little farther. There was something in her voice that made me stop walking. An insistence that felt less like Maya's usual enthusiasm and more like compulsion, like she needed to get somewhere specific. No, I said. I want to go back to the RV. She turned around, and for just a second, the expression on my face, the face I'd worn for 31 years, was completely alien. The eyes were wrong, the set of the mouth. Then it shifted back to something familiar, something concerned. Are you feeling okay? She asked. No, I'm not feeling okay. I woke up in the wrong body. Nothing is okay. I know. I'm sorry. Let's head back. We turned around, but the trail behind us looked different. The markers we'd passed, 7, 12, 4, were gone. The trees seemed denser, the path narrower. Maya noticed it too. I could tell by the way she stopped and looked around. "This isn't right," she said quietly. "No shit." We tried retracing our steps, but everything had changed. The aspens we'd walked through were now pine groves. The trail split in directions we didn't remember seeing. And the light was wrong. It should have been late morning by now, but the forest seemed darker, like dusk was coming early. Eventually, we found the campground, not by following the trail, but by literally stumbling out of the trees into the clearing where our RV sat. Maya's relief was palpable. Mine was mixed with something else, the feeling that the forest had let us go rather than us finding our way. The rest of that day passed in a haze. We stayed in the RV, barely talking. Maya spent time looking at herself, himself, in the bathroom mirror, studying my features like they were a puzzle to solve. I tried to nap and couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the wrongness of the body I was in, the weight and shape of it alien. Night came early, like the checkout woman had warned. By 5 o'clock the light was nearly gone. We made dinner, sandwiches, nothing that required much effort, and ate mechanically. The music Maya had loved the night before now seemed grating. She turned it off without me asking. Around 8, she said she was tired and went to bed. I stayed up, sitting at the dinette table, looking out the window at the darkness between the aspens. There was no moon. The forest was just shapes and shadows, and occasionally, I thought I saw movement, something pale, something that might have been human-shaped drifting between the trees. I must have dozed off at the table because I woke up to the sound of the door opening, the RV door, the one I'd locked. I jerked awake and saw a figure standing in the doorway. The outside lights were off, so it was backlit by starlight, just a silhouette. But the proportions were wrong. Too tall, limbs too long. "Maya?" I said, though I knew it wasn't. The figure stepped inside. Not walked, stepped, like it was learning how. Its head tilted at an angle that necks don't bend to, and I heard a sound like joints cracking. I tried to move and couldn't. My body, Maya's body, was frozen. I wanted to scream, but my throat had closed. The figure moved closer. I could see it better now. It was wearing clothes, jeans, and a jacket, things that looked familiar. As it passed through a shaft of light from the bedroom, I saw its face. It was my face. Not Maya wearing my body. Something else. The features were right, but assembled wrong, like a copy made by someone who'd never seen a human up close. The eyes were too wide, the mouth too thin, and it was smiling. "Daniel," it said in my voice. "You're still up." I couldn't answer. The fear was total, primal. Every instinct screamed that this thing was wrong, was predatory, was something I needed to run from immediately. It reached out a hand, my hand, and touched my shoulder. The fingers were cold through Maya's shirt. "Go to sleep," it said. And I did. I woke up in the bed, morning light coming through the window. Maya, the real Maya I hoped, was beside me, sleeping peacefully. For a moment I thought it had all been a nightmare. Then I looked at my hands and saw hers again. I got up carefully, not wanting to wake her. In the bathroom I studied Maya's face in the mirror. Her features, her eyes, her expressions. But something felt different, like I was settling into it, the wrongness becoming familiar. When Maya woke up, she seemed more energized. "I slept great," she said, stretching my body in ways that made my joints pop. "I think I'm getting used to this." "You're getting used to it?" "Well, not used to it, but it's not as awful as yesterday. The panic has worn off a bit." "I saw something last night," I said. "After you went to bed, something that looked like you, like me, came into the RV." She frowned. "What do you mean, something that looked like you?" "It came through the door. It was wearing my face, but it was wrong. The proportions, the way it moved." "You were dreaming." "I wasn't dreaming." "Daniel, we're under a lot of stress. Our brains are in someone else's body, for Christ's sake. You had a nightmare, that's all." But she looked uncomfortable when she said it, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. The day passed slowly. We didn't leave the RV. Maya suggested several times that we should. that we should pack up and drive back to Salt Lake, find help. But every time we got close to actually doing it, something stopped us. The keys would be in the wrong place. We'd realize we were low on gas. Maya would remember we'd planned to stay 5 days and we'd only been there 2. It was like the decision to leave was right there, obvious and necessary, but we couldn't quite grasp it. By the 3rd night, I was starting to lose track of who was who. When I looked at Maya, I saw my body, and my brain would insist that's where I belonged. When I looked in the mirror, I saw her face, but it was starting to feel like my face. The wrongness was fading into a new kind of normal. We talked less. Maya spent time outside, walking around the campsite, always staying close, but never quite close enough for a real conversation. I stayed in the RV, moving between the bed and the dinette, watching the forest through the windows. I started seeing things in the trees. Not the figure from the first night, something else. Faces maybe, or the suggestions of faces. Shapes that might have been human once. They never got closer, just watched from the tree line, patient and still. On the 4th morning, I woke up and Maya was gone. Her body, my body, wasn't in the bed. I checked the bathroom, the kitchen outside. The RV was empty. I tried not to panic. She'd probably just gone for a walk, I told myself. She'd be back. But something felt wrong. More wrong than usual. The air inside the RV was thick, stagnant. The light coming through the windows had a quality to it that made everything look slightly unreal, like a photograph left too long in the sun. I waited an hour, then 2. Maya didn't come back. Eventually, I made myself leave the RV. The forest felt different in daylight. Not safer exactly, but more honest about its hostility. The aspens rustled, though there was no wind. The clearing seemed smaller than I remembered. "Maya!" I called out, hearing her voice echo back. "Where are you?" No answer. I walked the perimeter of the campsite looking for footprints, signs of which direction she'd gone. The ground was soft from recent rain I didn't remember, and there were tracks everywhere. Too many tracks, human-shaped. But the spacing was wrong, the stride too long. I followed the clearest set into the trees. They led toward the trail we'd taken that first day, the one with the numbered markers. As I walked, I realized the forest was silent. No birds, no insects, no wind. Just my footsteps, her footsteps, crunching on dead leaves. The markers were back, but the numbers had changed. 1, 1, 1. Every tree I passed had the same number carved into it, over and over. 1, 1, 1. I wanted to turn back, but I couldn't. My body, Maya's body, kept walking, pulled by something I couldn't name. The trees pressed closer. The path narrowed to barely a trail. Then I saw her, my body, standing in a small clearing ahead. Back to me, perfectly still. "Maya?" I said. She didn't turn around, didn't move at all. I approached slowly, every instinct screaming at me to run the other direction. When I got close enough to touch her, I reached out and put a hand on her shoulder. She turned around. The face was mine, but the expression was nothing I'd ever worn. Empty, hollow. The eyes looked at me but didn't see me. The mouth hung slightly open. "Maya, what's wrong?" She blinked, once, twice. Then she smiled, and it was the wrong smile. Too wide, too many teeth. "Nothing's wrong," she said in my voice. "Everything is exactly right." She reached out and touched my face, her face, with my hand. The fingers were ice cold. "You're adapting," she said. "It's beautiful, you're becoming real." "What are you talking about? We're all becoming real, all of us. The forest helps, the numbers help. You just have to let go." I jerked away from her. "You're not Maya." "I'm exactly Maya. I have her thoughts, her memories, her love for you." The smile widened. "I just understand things better now." I ran. I don't know if I found my way back to the RV or if the forest let me go again. But suddenly I was there, stumbling into the clearing, gasping for breath. The RV door was open. I'd left it locked, and inside I could hear someone moving around. I stopped at the threshold. Through the window, I could see a figure in the bedroom. My body, Maya's body, moving normally, doing normal things, making the bed. I didn't go in. Instead, I sat down at the picnic table and tried to think, tried to separate what was real from what couldn't be real. But the categories were breaking down. When you wake up in someone else's skin, the definition of possible loses its meaning. The sun was setting again. I'd lost hours somehow, though it felt like I'd only been walking for minutes. The figure inside the RV, whichever one it was, turned on lights and moved to the kitchen. I could smell cooking, hear music playing. Everything normal, everything wrong. I need to stop writing for a moment. My hand hurts, except it's not my hand. I keep forgetting that. It's been 3 weeks since I left Fish Lake National Forest. I'm writing this from a motel outside of Provo. I drove here in the RV, abandoned the campsite in the middle of the night and just started driving. I didn't stop until I hit civilization, lights, other people. Maya came with me. At least, the thing wearing my body came with me. She seems normal now. Talks like Maya. Laughs like Maya. Remembers things only Maya would know. She's been patient with me, understanding about my confusion, my paranoia. She says I need time to adjust, that the experience was traumatic, that we should see a therapist together. But sometimes when she thinks I'm not looking, I catch her studying me with an expression that isn't quite human. And sometimes late at night I hear her moving around the RV in ways that don't sound right. Joints bending incorrectly, footsteps with too many syllables. I'm still in Maya's body. I've gotten used to it now. When I look in the mirror, I barely remember what I used to look like. The face staring back is becoming mine. The thoughts in my head are becoming mine. Soon, I think, I won't remember there was ever a difference. And the worst part, the part that keeps me up at night, is that I saw it. In that clearing, before I ran, I saw what Maya was looking at, what she was smiling at. There were others in the trees. Dozens of them. All standing perfectly still, all wearing faces that were almost right, but not quite. And they were all looking at me with the same expression Maya had. The same empty recognition. Like they were waiting. Like I was next. Like I was already one of them, and just hadn't realized it yet. Tomorrow Maya wants to go back. She says we left things unfinished at the campsite. She says the forest is calling to us. She says it'll make sense once we're there. And the terrifying thing is that part of me agrees with her. Part of me wants to go back to Fish Lake. Wants to walk that trail again. Wants to see those faces in the trees and understand what they understood. Part of me that's growing bigger every day. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know if I'm Daniel King writing this, or Maya wearing his memories, or something else entirely that's learned to pretend. All I know is that when I close my eyes, I see the clearing. I see the figures. I see myself standing among them, wearing Maya's face with that same empty smile. And I see her, my body, my old life, welcoming me home. The forest is patient. The numbers keep counting. And sooner or later, everyone becomes real. I'm writing this down so someone will know what happened if we don't come back. But I'm also writing it down because part of me hopes someone will find it and understand. Part of me hopes that someone will read this and know that it's not too late. That I haven't fully changed yet. That I can still be saved. But every time I read it back, I see mistakes. Places where Maya's handwriting bleeds through. Phrases she would use instead of ones I would. The words themselves are changing, becoming something neither of us wrote. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the forest doesn't just take you. Maybe it teaches you that you were never really there to begin with. That the person you thought you were was just a story you told yourself, and stories can be rewritten. Maya is calling me now. She says it's time to go. She's smiling that smile that's mine but isn't. And there's something in her eyes that might be love, or might be hunger, or might be the forest itself looking out at me. I'm going to close this notebook now. I'm going to get in the RV. I'm going to drive back to Fish Lake National Forest with the woman who is and isn't my girlfriend, in the body that is and isn't mine. And when I get there, I think I'm going to understand. I think I'm going to see myself as I really am. I think I'm going to walk into those trees and find the clearing and stand with all the others who learned what it means to be real. And maybe, just maybe, I'll finally feel like I'm in the right skin. Even if it's not my own. Even if it never was. My name is Daniel King, at least I think it is. At least that's what the person wearing this face keeps telling herself. The forest is waiting. The numbers are counting down, and I'm almost home.